but not a single song in this game comes close to the masterpiece that is Hip Hop Chocobo, baby. Okay, so my plan after beating Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was to review it this week. The only problem with that is that this is the size of the script for my Final Fantasy VII Rebirth review. It is by far the longest review I have ever done, and it is going to take a lot longer than a week for me to finish it. So, that's when I came up with Plan B. And it is something that I have wanted to do ever since I made the video back in 2020. I'm going to remake my Final Fantasy VII Remake review. And some of you may never know I reviewed this game in the past because once I upload this video, I'm deleting that review. So if you're currently watching this video, it's gone, baby. It is one of my least favorite reviews for a lot of reasons. So now that I can go back and redo it, I can now talk about things that I missed, and I can talk about Integrate because the DLC wasn't even out when I reviewed the game in the past. But enough of my yapping, on to the review. So Final Fantasy VII came out in 1997, and for the longest time, people were begging for a reboot. It first started with that tech demo video on the PS3 in 2005, and then everyone expected them to work on a remake right after Crisis Core. But what we didn't know was that it was going to take them over 20 years for this reboot to come out. But considering how this game looks, I have zero complaints. This game is gorgeous. I have nothing bad to say about the graphics. I've played many reboots at this point, but I have never been in more awe looking at areas from the original game in such insane detail. And seeing my girl Tifa in full HD was a gift from the gods. Also, I am so glad they only focused on Midgar in this game. I can't believe that people were actually mad about that. They already said that they were going to do the game in parts. This is bullshit. Why can't we have the full game? So what you're telling me is that you wanted another Final Fantasy 15? Another Pass A game that was rushed for time? Fuck that. This was the only way they could have told Final Fantasy VII, so they could take their time with it. I am so glad they made that decision, because there were so many things in this remake that fleshed out so many things in Midgar compared to the original game. A great example of this is how they treated Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge in this game. They were such small roles in the original, but in this game, they actually feel like important characters. And on top of that, we also get some new characters that weren't even in the original. So with that being said, I'm going to rank every Final Fantasy character in this remake. So I'm going to be ranking every Final Fantasy character in this remake. That's right, every Final Fantasy character in this remake. So, let's go. Anyway, we started off with Aerith. Now, I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions because I feel like a lot of people think I hate Aerith because of how much I love Tifa, but that is actually not true. Here's the thing. I like Aerith as a character, maybe not as much as everyone else, but the thing is, a lot of people ship Aerith and Cloud together. I'm not one of those people. Obviously, you can tell that I ship Tifa and Cloud together more than I ship Aerith and Cloud together. You wanna know why? Because one, I do like Tifa more, and two, I like Aerith and Zack together a lot more. The two best ships in the entire game is Aerith and Zack and Cloud and Tifa, and that's just canon to me. Like, it's just the perfect pairing, and no one can tell me anything else. So that being said, talking about Aerith by herself as a character, I like her bubbly nature and whatnot. I like how naive she is, but not too naive where she comes off as like dumb. And I actually do like the nature of her character. I think the actress played her really well. So with that being said, I will give her, See, here's the thing. This is coming from me who has played Rebirth as well, and depending on how I feel about these characters in this game compared to how I feel about them in Rebirth, the ranking is definitely going to change. So for her in this game specifically, I'm going to give her... I'm debating on 2 rankings right now, but you know what? I don't care. This is about as fair as I can get. Yeah, I think B tier is fair, honestly. Honestly, I think she's B tier. So, that's just me personally, and honestly, B's not even a bad rank, and honestly, people already think I hate her anyway, so me giving her B is fair, honestly. So you know what? It is what it is. Anyway, next up, we have Andrea. I mean, I'm just keeping it a buck. I mean, that dance sequence alone was just... He immediately put him on the status of legacy, like just legendary status, the moment we just had that whole dance scene, that whole makeover and whatnot. So yeah, I have no complaints with that. Andrea, 100% S tier, and if you don't think that's correct, then you are just wrong. So yeah. Barrett. Okay, now Barrett is an interesting one because obviously there is a lot of hostility between Cloud and Barrett in the beginning of the game, and obviously if you played the games, you know that eventually they like develop, and like obviously Barrett becomes a lot less hostile towards Cloud and whatnot. It starts to become like a friendly like bond and whatnot, where like they like still jab at each other, but they're more friendly than they are like hostile like it was in the beginning. And here's the thing with Barrett's development. I think Barrett does develop in this game, but I feel like he develops a lot more when we get to Rebirth, for obvious reasons, when we get to his backstory and whatnot. So that being said, I'm going to give Barrett, I'm debating on the same 2 rankings I have with Aerith. But with this one, I actually do think Barrett does really, you know what, I think it's fair. I'm gonna give him A tier, honestly. Yeah, I straight up think he's A tier, yeah. Because I do think that he does do a good job developing, and there's so many good moments and funny moments he has in this game alone. Compared to Aerith, I feel like in Remake, that gets even better when we get to Rebirth. So you know what, I think an A tier is fair for him. Alright, Biggs. Biggs. Man, this is interesting. Now, if we were just going by the looks department, I would just put him in S tier, but I mean, like, if we're going by character-wise, I mean, even though Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge were a lot bigger characters in this game, I'm not going to say that he was big enough to get like an S tier or an A tier, so I think the fairest score for me would putting him in B tier with Aerith. Yeah, I think that's fair. And honestly, I will say, out of the 3, Jesse got the most development out of the 3, and I don't think anyone can argue about that. Like 100% out of the 3, Jesse got the most development. Now, in Rebirth, we do have Biggs again, and I'll get to him when we talk about Rebirth as well. But here, I definitely think B tier is like I think it's the perfect ranking for him. So yeah, no complaints. Anyway, oh man. Everyone rev up those fryers and strap on in because we got a big one, ladies and gentlemen. Cloud Strife, the main character, the main man, and the character you're going to be playing throughout the entirety of the game. Oh boy. Now, I'm just going to keep it a buck and I'm just going to say it straight out. My ranking for Cloud in this game and Rebirth are going to be completely different. And I will say this, from his development and from his character in the remake, I do think it is really good. Am I going to say it's phenomenal? No. Am I going to say it's amazing? No. Am I going to say he's even close to being one of my favorite main characters in video game history? Absolutely not. But he does have moments where he does show a softer side and goofy side, and I do like those moments, but I feel like it's not enough compared to the amount that they really show him being more goofy and vulnerable in Rebirth. I feel like in this game he's a lot more closed off, for good reason, because if you played the original Final Fantasy VII, there's a reason why that's the case. But in this game, I feel like he's still too closed off for me to put him at a higher ranking than he should be at, because Rebirth, we'll get to it and whatnot, but spoiler alert, he's a lot higher in he's going to be a higher rank in Rebirth. But for here specifically, I'm going to have to put him with Aerith in B tier. And you know what? I'll put them right next to each other. So yeah, this is the closest you guys, Cloud Aerith shippers, will ever get to seeing them two together. They're together in B rank. So yeah, I think that's fair for him. He has a lot more development in the later game that I feel like his closed off nature doesn't really. I feel like that's really, we don't really get that much of his vulnerability or goofiness until like the later games and whatnot. So I feel like this is a fair rank for him. Hojo, Professor Hojo, man, oh man. See, man, okay. I already have an idea of 2 rankings I have for him, but when it comes from being just a vile, awful, disgusting man, he takes the cake, absolutely. Honestly, out of every character in this entire game, I think he is the biggest villain in the entire game. More than Sephiroth, more than Shinra, more than anyone else in this game. I think everyone can agree. Anyone who has played the original game can agree with me on that. Hojo, legit, honestly, Hojo is the main reason why Final Fantasy VII even exists. He's like the main culprit for why like the whole Genova thing, like the whole thing with Genova, the whole thing with Sephiroth, all of that is his fault, honestly. And because of that, see, I'm ranking him specifically from the remake because I'm trying to think of him as a character, because as a character as a whole for a villain, he would be S tier. But considering that we're specifically only talking about the remake, I may put him in A tier for right now, because even though we had a good amount of him in this game, I feel like we didn't have all of Hojo in this game. We didn't have the full potential Hojo in this game that we know him of. Like, we saw a good amount, but not enough yet. Not really. Like, we haven't really seen just why he deserves to be an S tier as a villain yet. But once we get that, especially when we get Vincent coming into the scenes, then I'll put him in S tier, because he's gonna get there. Just not yet. Just not yet. So yeah, it is what it is. I think A is fine for the time being. Jesse. Now, I feel like out of all the characters in this remake, the one that got the most development in the entire game is Jesse. 100%, without a shadow of a doubt. Jesse, out of all the characters in this remake that didn't get much screen time in the original, she got the most development in the entire remake. Her, absolutely. Like, it was a love triangle between Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith in the original game. In the remake, it's a love square. Like, Jesse is just as much as a combatant to Tifa and Aerith in this game compared to all the other two. So yeah, so with that being said, with her development, with everything she gave us in this game and whatnot, you would think I would just immediately put her in S tier, but okay, now let me explain. Okay, so here's the thing. I really like Jessie as a character, but the thing is, I don't think, even with her having the most development out of everyone in this remake and whatnot, at least for the new characters, I feel like she did it. And I feel like out of all the rankings I've done this far, I feel like people are gonna be the most mad about that one. I feel like for me, it's Jessie as a character. I feel like she didn't really hold that much weight to the story. Like, even though like she was a really good character and did have some moments, I feel like, at least for the main story, okay. Like I said, I know what I want to say, but I feel like I'm literally trying to, like, usually I'm not afraid to hold back and whatnot, so I'm just gonna say it. She really just felt like another love interest. That's legit how she felt. Even though she had character and she did have moments. Like, we went to her house, we got to see like what she was doing and whatnot, how she's an actress and whatnot, and all these things and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it felt more like, I feel like if we were to weigh out her as a character and her as a love interest, her as a love interest was higher than her as a character. without a shadow of a doubt. She had character, but her as a love interest, it just felt like she was just there to be an extra love interest that kind of just felt weird to me. Okay, so next up we have my boy, my man, my favorite of the Turks. We got Reno. Oh man, oh man. So for me, all I gotta say is if we were to rank like my favorite member of the Turks, it would 100% be Reno. Like I will say, if we were to rank my favorite current member of the Turks, it would be Reno, because if we were talking about ex-members, I'm pretty sure you already know who my number one is, but we're talking about current members. So because we're talking about current members, Reno, I gotta say S tier. Like, I think the actor who did his performance and everything, like he did Reno perfectly. Like everything about Reno, and just his swagger, his demeanor, just his fighting style, everything about Reno was just done perfectly. So yeah, I got no complaints. Reno was a phenomenal character in the remake, and man, oh man, we better get a lot more of him in part 3, because part 2, we'll get to that when we we'll get to that. Okay, anyway, Roche. Okay, this is a new character in the remake, and this was an interesting one. So that being said, he was very flamboyant and very outgoing and very what's the word I'm looking for? Not flamboyant. He was it's crazy word I'm looking for. I don't know if it's crazy. It's just more like he's like he's a lot. He's a lot. That's the only way I can describe it and whatnot. But at the same time, I did enjoy him for how kooky he was, and like, but I wouldn't say I enjoyed him that much compared to, I feel like, maybe a few other people did. So you know, I have a different rank, because he shows up again in Rebirth. I have a different ranking for him in Rebirth. So you know what? For this one, I'd say he was fine. So I'll give him a B tier. I think B is fair for him. Yeah, I got no complaints with that. Okay. Rude, my second favorite current member of the Turks. This one easily, just because I just love Rude as a character and whatnot. I like Rude, but not as much as Reno. So with that being said, I have to give him an A tier. I think Rude is still a really good character. I have no complaints with Rude. Rude is a really good character. And honestly, you know what? I was gonna say something, but you know what? I'll save it in the Rebirth. In Rebirth, basically. So we'll wait till the second game. Rufus Shinra, the son of the President Shinra and the eventual president of Shinra. I mean, what? Anyway, no spoilers. All right, anyway, Rufus. See, my ranking for Rufus is definitely going to be different compared to Rebirth, because we barely had that much screen time with Rufus in this game. He like showed up, we fought him, and that's basically it. So with that being said, he came off smooth, but like, that being said, I would give him an A, but I gotta give him a B tier because of that. I don't know what is going on with his outfit, because the top part looks great, but then you see the bottom part and you're like, what is that paper shred like skirt you got going on? Like, I don't know what that is, and it just looks completely off, and like, I don't know what that is, but you know what? It is what it is. I guess that's fashion. I don't know. He's rich, so I guess that's fashion to him. Anyway, B tier. All right. And here we go with another big one, ladies and gentlemen. We have the main villain of the game, the man of the hour, Sephiroth. See, as we all know, Sephiroth is one of the most iconic villains in video game history. But here's the thing that people need to know. In the original game, he wasn't even in this part of the game. He doesn't show until the ending of the Midgar arc. And just him being here, I will say this completely, as much as I love Sephiroth, it feels so unnecessary. And I feel like I would have enjoyed them keeping that mystique from the original, where we didn't see him at all, but we just knew of him and we just saw sightings of him. Like, in the original game, when he kills a certain character and whatnot in like this arc, like, we don't even see him do it. But in this game, we see him do it. And I would have liked it a lot more if we were to walk up, saw that person dead, and the only thing left there was his sword. So we just know, oh my god, that's Sephiroth. And we're like, who's Sephiroth and whatnot? And we just see that Cloud like losing his mind and whatnot, because he knows whose sword that is and whatnot. And that would have been such That would have been such a big moment and such a great, amazing moment and whatnot. Because the thing I love the most about Sephiroth is his mystique, and I feel like they have the mystique there, but I feel like I feel like the mystique here feels a lot more forced compared to the way they did it in the original and whatnot. So with that being said, and like I said, his ranking will be different in Rebirth and whatnot. But with that being said, the way they do Sephiroth in this game, I feel like it's good, but I feel like it's a lot more forced compared to the original, where it was a lot more quiet and mysterious, where this one is just like, oh, I'm here, what am I gonna do? So with that being said, I'm sorry, I gotta give it a C tier. I gotta give it a C. Like, it pains me to give Sephiroth a C, because he is one of my favorite video game villains of all time. But yeah, it just feels kind of off, honestly. So yeah, it is what it is. All right, next up we have Zack Fair. I do not like the new voice for Zack at all. And I played Crisis Core Reunion. I played the entirety of that game, and I have a lot to say. But you know what? I will save that for a review in the future, because I have a lot to say about that. Anyway, let's just go on the Yuffie. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I talk about Integrate. Okay, so I will say this. Yuffie, coming into this game, I did not know how I was going to feel about Yuffie, because in the original Final Fantasy VII, I really enjoyed Yuffie as a character, and I wouldn't say I enjoyed Yuffie that much. I liked her, but I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, she was amazing and whatnot. I just thought she was like, oh yeah, she could be annoying and also cute at the same time. Like, it just depends really when it came to the original. In this game, they really make me like Yuffie. They really make me like Yuffie in this game. And I will say, Rebirth, I got a lot to say about Yuffie in Rebirth as well. But in this game, I really enjoyed her. We didn't get that much of her, but just for the little bit we got of her, I really enjoyed her character a lot. And I think they did Yuffie perfectly. And I will say this, in Rebirth, I got a lot of things to say, and they are actually really good. They're actually really good things to say about Yuffie. But we'll save that for when we get to Rebirth. But for now, we're going on to Sonon. Now, if there's anyone else that should be in the wife list, I would put Sonon there, because he's probably the best looking man in the entire game. But character-wise, he also is a really good character. And it's crazy considering that it's only a DLC character. Like, he's such a good character that I would have loved to have had him in the team, actually, and whatnot. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And with that being said, for as much as we got of Sonon and everything, and I really loved his relationship with Yuffie as well, I'ma actually give him A tier. I actually really liked Sonon. Like, I didn't expect me to like him as much as I did, but I liked him, and I liked his whole, like, I love him and Yuffie's brother-sister relationship. It was really good. It was genuinely really good. So we have Nero. Man, I didn't think I was going to put these two on the list, especially characters from Dirge of Cerberus out of all games. But honestly, Nero coming in and the way they use Nero in Integrate was honestly really good. They genuinely made him such an intimidating villain, and I actually liked how they did it. So you know what? Just for the build-up and the way they built him up in Integrate alone, I'ma actually put him in A tier. They actually did a really good job with Nero as a character, because I did not care about him at all in Dirge of Cerberus whatsoever, but they actually made me care about him. Now, that being said, if we're going by characters that we don't care about really, we have Weiss or Weiss. I do not remember how to pronounce his name. And I mean, we got like a cutscene with him, then he became a playable boss in like in Chatley Simulator. But really, character-wise or anything, See, it's weird because I know we're probably going to get a lot more of him in part 3, so I'm gonna wait to rank him again in part 3, but for now, just from like the one cutscene we had of him, I mean, I'm gonna just put him in D. Like, honestly, there's not really anywhere else I can put him, really. I mean, like, D is probably the fairest rank I can give him, considering that we really haven't had much of him yet. And it's crazy considering the fact that I know how strong he is, and the fact that he's also like the main villain of Dirge of Cerberus. So I know when we get to part 3 and we get to Vincent stuff, we're definitely going to get a lot of him. I'll be shocked if we don't. So with that being said, I think that's a fair rank, and honestly, I think that's a fair list. I think this is a perfect list. Didn't think that these two would be the only people that got S tier, but honestly, there's going to be, I will say this, when we get to Rebirth, there will be a lot more S tiers, and there will be a lot more things I have to say about that. So we'll wait until we get in the Rebirth then, but for now, I think this is the perfect list. And oh my god, praise the mighty golden chocobo, the combat system is amazing. I was so worried about how they were going to do the combat system, because even though I do enjoy FF15 in parts, I really didn't like the combat system. But the gameplay here is so damn crisp, and you can switch to any member in your party with just the touch of a D-pad, and the soundtrack is exactly what I wanted. The remixes for all the old tracks were so good. Each track had their own unique flavor to them, and they worked so well for each area in the game. But not a single song in this game comes close to the masterpiece that is Hip Hop Chocobo, baby. Now, as for the story, for the most part, it was told perfectly. It's basically an HD retelling of the original game, but obviously with a few changes and a lot of added things here and there. Though I will say this, as you go through this game, the pacing can drag in certain areas. I hate sewer levels in video games, but man, this one broke me. And I know there was a lot of controversy with the ending of this game, but considering what they do in the second game, I can't complain, because even with those changes, they were still able to make everything work perfectly in the end. But with all that said, the Final Fantasy VII Remake gave us a great story, great characters, fun-ass gameplay, some gorgeous looking visuals, and an amazing soundtrack. If you have never played Final Fantasy VII, then this is now the perfect way to start your journey. So with all that said, my final verdict for the Final Fantasy VII Remake is the golden seal of approval.